Welcome, everyone, to the very first episode of the Pro Learner's Log, the official podcast of the National Educators Institute, the intellectually safe space for the professional learning, networking, and conversations of Bermuda's educators. I'm your co-host, Ruzelda Severin, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Samantha Smith. We're here today to dive deep into a fascinating topic that's been gaining quite a lot of attention in the world of education and in society, period, ChatGPT.
That's right, Rosalda. I'm Samantha, and it's a pleasure to be co-hosting this inaugural episode of Pro Learner's Log. ChatGPT is a groundbreaking technology, and we're excited to explore how it's impacting education in Bermuda. Back in May, the NEI hosted a World Cafe professional conversation on ChatGPT. Educational professionals from Bermuda College, public and private schools attended, as well as some community partners. I can share that the room was buzzing with opinions, pro and con ChatGPT. In fact, both of our guests today were in the room.
Well then, listeners, you're in for a treat today. Whether you're an educator, a student, a parent, or simply someone curious about the future of learning, this episode is a must listen. In the world of education, we're constantly looking for innovative ways to enhance the learning experience, and ChatGPT has the potential to be a game changer. Samantha, why do you think listeners should tune in today?
Well, ChatGPT is already a household name in many industries, but its implications in education are profound. Students and teachers may use it for various tasks. Today, we have two exceptional educators from Bermuda College, Miss Necheeka Trott and Mrs. Denise Simons. Mrs. Trott is going to share her experience and insights into how she uses ChatGPT, and Mrs. Simons will share what she is weighing when trying to decide whether or not to use it.
Well, I think that it's going to be definitely interesting to hear the unique perspectives from members of higher education. But as you know, the NEI serves all levels of educators. So this episode is the first of a three-part series where we will also hear from public and private school educators who use ChatGPT. It's going to be fascinating to learn about the considerations, the challenges, and the opportunities each educator encounters.
Absolutely. So, whether you're an educator curious about how ChatGPT can revolutionize your teaching, a student interested in the tools that could shape your learning experience, or simply someone who is passionate about the future of education, stay tuned because this series is packed with insights and real-world experiences.
Listeners, are you ready to dive into the world of ChatGPT and its role in education? Let's get this enlightening conversation with our Bermuda College guest started right now.
It's our pleasure to welcome to the Pro Learner's Log Miss Necheeka Trott and Mrs. Denise Simons, both distinguished educators at Bermuda College. First, we have Miss Necheeka Trott. Necheeka is a dynamic leader who has dedicated over 20 years to the Bermuda community. She holds an MA and MBA degree and currently serves as a senior math lecturer and faculty association chair at Bermuda College. Previously, she contributed to the institution as dean and program coordinator. Necheeka is an innovative, out-of-the-box thinker who excels in change management, stakeholder engagement, and problem resolution. As a leader, she facilitates transformation through strategic thinking and diversity of thought to help organizations accomplish their priorities. Welcome, Necheeka.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And it's wonderful to have you. And joining Necheeka is Mrs. Denise Simons, a passionate educator who I actually used to teach when she was in elementary school, a passionate educator with 19 years serving 3 years at the Berkeley Institute and 16 years at Bermuda College, where her current positions are English lecturer and English department chair. For the past 16 years, Denise has been an integral part of Bermuda College. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in English with a minor in philosophy, as well as a Master of Arts degree in adult education and training and a Master of Arts degree in English literature, with distinction, we will add. Beyond her professional achievements, Denise treasures her roles as a wife, mother, daughter, auntie, sister, godmother, and friend. She cares greatly about the future of Bermuda and the betterment of her community. Welcome, Denise.
Hello, it's good to be with you ladies today.
Beautiful.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you both on the Pre-Learner's Log to share your insights and your experiences.
Our first question is for both of our guests. As with many new and impactful technologies, there is a wide range of reactions and responses to using it. And this has definitely occurred with ChatGPT as well as other AI that's in the generative family. Whether or not to use it for education purposes has become a hot topic. Can you share with us, how did you first come across ChatGPT? Necheeka, would you mind going first?
Sure. Good afternoon to your listening audience. I stumbled upon GPT on the news. It was all of this buzz. CNN, CBS, NBC, everyone was talking about this ChatGPT. And then what happened, I started to get a few articles and clips from the Chronicle of Higher Education. And I was like, well, what is this all about? And it just piqued my interest because I've heard about AI technology, but this seemed to be, it just exploded on the scene, right? And everybody was talking about it. And I think a lot of educators from primary school to higher education was like, what does this mean for us? I think we all kind of held our breath until it became a part of our vocabulary of how to embrace it in educational spaces. So that's how I first stumbled upon this AI ChatGPT and how it was going to possibly revolutionize education.
So that's interesting. You immediately thought about the implications for education. Did you take any time to look at how it was being used in society first?
That's how I first started to use it. So when I got an account, I signed up for a free account, and I just started to ask all sorts of questions. When was Bermuda founded? And then I started to ask some educational questions because I wanted to see, let's explore it, right? Just like, how can I utilize this to be a more effective member of society and in the educational space? So I was just open to whatever it gave me back. I just put all sorts of questions and comments in this ChatGPT.
There you go. Well, Denise, what about you? How did you first come across it, and what piqued your curiosity to explore it as an educational tool or resource?
So good afternoon again to your listening audience. Unlike Ms. Trott, I am not a big TV watcher or follower of news, so I tend to find out about things through conversations. And I had a conversation with a colleague who said, hey, you heard about this ChatGPT? Like, as English lecturers, what are we going to do about it? And so I delve further into, once I have a conversation about something, I'm sort of nerdy, whereas I will go and then research about it. So I started to look on various websites, and of course my curiosity was piqued. I brought it up actually as chair of my department in a meeting to see how my English colleagues felt about it. And this ensued a great level of conversation. Is this going to increase cheating in our classroom? Can students now just go on this app and generate an essay? So I decided, instead of having trepidation about it, to find out more about it, because I feel if we are proactive with things, then instead of being reactive, we could get ahead of it. And actually, I find that many of my students are not well versed in it. The more I may bring it up, they are not as well versed as I thought they would be. So I'm not as, I don't want to use the term afraid, but it doesn't stress me as much as when I first found out about it.
Well, because you're doing that thing that it doesn't even only apply to education, but if you have fear about something, a lot of times it's about lack of knowledge, right? And so you took the time to learn more about it. So thank you for sharing your vulnerability with us. That's all a part of the professional learning process. Samantha?
Yes, so we have another question for both of you. I'll start with you, Necheeka. We know that you use ChatGPT in your teaching and that Denise, you were still weighing whether or not to do so. How did you go about exploring ChatGPT professionally? So I know you said you started to look at it and just use, whatever societal questions you had, but how did you start to explore it professionally? And what were you initially asking it to do? And what were your takeaways from it? What did you learn about its opportunities and challenges?
I think as we delve into ChatGPT as educators, we have to realize that it's going to revolutionize our resources and what we have at our fingertips. For me, I looked at ChatGPT is like to English or to any particular subject, like the calculator was to math. It's just going to change and give us more time to be able to delve into things. So getting back to your question, one of the math things I did, I asked it to explain a particular problem. I said, I gave it a problem and I said, explain this problem to me as a weak developmental student. Give me all the steps that I need. Tell me some of the challenging areas. And it spit out this long document. It came out to be about 2 pages. And then I looked at that and I said, And then what I did, I took that, I copied it into a Word document, and I took sections out and I gave it to my students because I think it's good for students and for us, the educators, to provide our students with a variety of resources. My explanation may not meet their needs, but maybe the ChatGPT did. So that was one way that I did use ChatGPT in the classrooms. I've also asked it to come up with some questions. So I asked it to, can you give me 2-step algebraic problems involving parentheses and negative numbers? And it spit out a whole variety of questions that I was able to use. Now, my students here at the college has just had their first test. So what my intention is when I go back to the classroom, I'm going to get them to take the questions that they got wrong, type them into GPT and ask GPT to help them to understand why they got it wrong. So they're getting feedback on how they can improve on the areas and note those areas. So that's more of how I'm moving into this space with ChatGPT to make it more interactive and empowering the students and teaching them how to use this as a tool to tutor. Because sometimes I'm not available or class is not available here at the college, but they still have this resource. But it's up to us as educators to empower them of how to use it to their benefit in their learning process.
So you have given us a great example of how to use ChatGPT to personalize learning.
Yes.
And that is what some are saying is one of the benefits of it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes. What about you, Denise? How did you go about exploring ChatGPT professionally?
As I mentioned earlier, I think I started looking at articles, what other English lecturers are doing at other colleges, etc. As I stated, I haven't used it as yet. I'm still on the fence because of the discipline that I use, right? I still have some reservations as it pertains to cheating and plagiarism. So I'm still trying to navigate through exactly how I'm going to use it. I think that I've come up with a few ideas, like perhaps if you ask ChatGPT how to cite a source and it doesn't come back properly because perhaps they are still on 2012 MLA documentation and not upgraded, and how I think I could use it in that way to say, okay, if you want to use this, it's fine, because I can't, tell you what to do. However, know that you could still get information wrong. You may have to still go back and correct information, because as my son says, who's 8 years old, ChatGPT to him is like a body with no soul, right? So it knows enough information to regurgitate stuff back. But if it doesn't have that maybe in-depth wow factor analysis for a Shakespeare poem, right? You're going back and you're doing extra work. So I think I'm going to use it on the basis of like plagiarism and using it, like if you use it, you may have to still go in and do the work. So you're giving yourself more work than anything. So that's where I'm at so far. Still trying to navigate exactly how I'm going to use it in the English classroom.
Yeah, that is definitely a challenge for English teachers in particular. In fact, today I had an experience where I asked ChatGPT for a quote, a scholarly quote, and it was very honest. It said, "I can't do that, but I will offer you a made-up quote, and you can use that." Really?
I've used it as well to help me to brainstorm and to craft different things. But like you said, it's like a person without a soul. So I find that it's only as good as the information that I provided when making requests.
Absolutely. So Necheeka, you gave us wonderful examples of the way that you use ChatGPT, and definitely with your students in mind. Do you at any point use it just for yourself? I mean, for tasks within your discipline, or even within your many other responsibilities at Bermuda College? Are there other ways that you yourself use ChatGPT?
Yeah, I have definitely utilized that because I think it's a resource tool, right? And one of the things that it can definitely do is help us to utilize our time more effectively, right?
Mhm.
You only have 24 hours in a day. So how can I leverage ChatGPT? And I know this is mainly a conversation about ChatGPT, but I'm sure you also heard about BART,
Oh,
which is the
absolutely.
Google version, which takes it to a whole nother level because of the fact that BART has integrated all of the Google sites. So you can put something in there, and not only does it answer the question, it gives you websites or pages of where you can go. So I have taken the opportunity to use it to generate ideas. Here at the college, we are getting ready for advising week. So I said to ChatGPT, give me some themes of how we can celebrate advising week. And it spit out some themes. I kind of, customize it, Bermudianize it, make it culturally relevant. And then I took those ideas to the committee to vote on.
There you
So,
go.
I think it all comes to how we embrace the technology so that it makes it work for us in terms of being more productive in the educational space.
Thank you.
So I think we started to touch on this a bit, but can you expand on it a bit more? We, as discussed, know that there were concerns about academic dishonesty, the stifling of creativity, and lessened problem-solving skills when using ChatGPT. How would you address any of these concerns? And either both of you can take a shot at this.
I think essentially I would address it the same way I address any other plagiarism situation. Yeah. Typically, I give a writing sample at the beginning of the semester, and I've been doing this prior to ChatGPT, but now that I know about ChatGPT, so I guess that is something that I've definitely been strategic in, where I got the students actually write in their own handwriting. I give them something very general, like describe your best day yet, or something like that, where they don't have to think about it too much in depth. And then I get these writing samples and I read them, and I do that so that I get a sense of how they write. So once I go to grade that first essay improvement, oftentimes I just run essays through a plagiarism checker if I feel like a red flag has come up, right? Typically, it's not. A student could have just had a bad day and then they write 4 great essays, but typically that's how I approach it. So I think I would still have the same approach. Yeah, and again, because I haven't really used it, I have used it like to maybe generate some essay questions or something like that. So it is helpful, but I think I would take the same approach that I do as an English lecturer with running it through a plagiarism checker, making sure that I have that writing sample so I know how my students write at the beginning in their own handwriting, nothing that they take away, but they're writing in front of me. Also, now I do take the approach of enforcing more writing during class time. So every time they come back, okay, we're working on the second paragraph and we're working on that paragraph. They don't know it's a method to my madness. Unless I'm listening to this podcast, right? Essentially, I do that because then it cuts down on the amount of time that they have to write outside of the classroom, and they have accessibility to me, because at 2 o'clock in the morning, they may not have accessibility to me to say, Ms. Simons, how does this sound? Do I think I have to change that around? So I think I would take the same old school approach, that good old plagiarism checker, and go that route.
Well, this is what I'm going to say here, and I'm going to encourage you to do research on this because I know that you are a researcher. When it comes to the ChatGPT or the AI generator indicators, or the checkers, as we are calling them, they are notoriously unreliable. You have to think about the fact that as the AI is improving, the goal of the AI is to sound more and more human. And so there have been many instances where educators have written something and run it through these various checkers to ask, did a human write this, or did AI? And AI takes credit for it, but it was actually written by a human. And this happens at a very high percentage rate of the time. So research that and see if what you come up with, what decisions you make, even if you don't use it, just to see what information is out there about doing that.
Absolutely, thank you.
You're welcome. Necheeka, were you going to give input here?
Sure, I can say a few words when it comes to the academic dishonesty. I think transparency and clear guidelines are key for students, to let them know that this is the confines of ChatGPT or any other AI software. I actually just printed off. This is from cybergear.io. They have 100 AI tools that are available. So we as educators, we're not going to be able to keep up with this. So
absolutely
we have to
not.
provide a space and some clear guidelines of how we embrace it, how we encourage our students to use it, and how they use it in their educational pursuits. Because they can use AI as a springboard to come up with ideas that they themselves then go and build upon. So what AI is not going to do, I think, I could be wrong, is take away from the creativity. You know, as Denise is an English person, I'm in math, so it's a bit more streamlined and direct. But, you know, that creativity, I don't think AI can replace it right now, but I'm sure someone in the world is working on that. You know, so I think using AI thoughtfully and mindfully within the educational framework to promote learning and creativity is going to be key for us as educators. And more importantly, how do we, you know, change the educational space, because we work in higher education, to empower our future teachers? Because this is just going to be, we weren't exposed to AI when we went to teacher training school, right? So how do we, as us in the higher educational space, embrace it? And also, what does that look like when it comes to curriculum development? They have, and I've also done this too, I went to a couple of AI teacher sites that are directed towards writing lesson plans. So the administrators asking teachers to write lesson plans, is that going to be a thing of the past now? And being able to develop a lesson plan, but now the teacher has that space where they can say, I have my lesson plan. How do I get to change the learning and the assessment in that classroom for individuals? So you're moving into that space of more individualized learning because that paperwork that administrators require is already done.
Well, what I appreciate about your response, Necheeka, is that you're offering solutions as well. And I will go back to the stifling of creativity, and maybe people who use AI platforms like Midjourney or even Canva, which is expanding AI capabilities. Maybe that's where there is some stifling of creativity being accused in those genres, in the graphic arts and things like that. So maybe
I will just comment on the Canva, if I may. I did a workshop at BBC a couple of weeks ago, and it was ChatGPT in business. And as a part of that workshop, the paid version has Canva built in. It has Excel built in. It has every application built in. So if you have the paid version, it will create your slide decks. It will analyze your data if you have lots of data. So you have to just learn how to embrace it in this space to work for us.
Okay. I am a Canva addict as well, so I understand. So whether educators decide to use ChatGPT or not, I think that the thing that we can agree on is that it is an undeniable game changer for society. So one of the roles of educators, a primary role of educators, why we think about how we do what we do, is that we are trying to prepare students for a future that some would say is actually quite right now. So within the context of AI, generative AI being a game changer for society, what responsibilities, if any, do you believe educators have to prepare students for generative AI? And that's whether you agree with it or not, whether you're going to use it or not. The question is, do we have a responsibility to prepare students for it? Can both of you speak to that, please?
Absolutely. And if anything else, teach them how to use it responsibly, right? So with every great thing that comes out, it's always people like hackers, right? So you have intelligent people who could get into anything. You could either use it for good or for bad, right? So teach them how to be responsible. Teach them how it could enhance their learning and things of that nature. So absolutely, we have a responsibility, because I think that the classroom is holistic, right? And we're not just going in and saying, okay, math, but it could be that you are using something as a teachable moment to say, okay, yes, it may cause people to plagiarize, but here is how you could be responsible with it. It could say, okay, you have a research paper and your lecturer hasn't given you the topic for it, and you could go and say, okay, what's a good topic if my interests are X, Y, and Z? And then it could help you to generate a topic. So it's about responsible use. It's about using it to enhance what skills they already have and things of that nature. So absolutely.
Thank you. Necheeka, what do you say there? What responsibilities do you believe educators have to prepare students for generative AI?
We have a huge responsibility, especially as Denise talked about her son, and we have talked about her son at 7, knowing about AI and ChatGPT. That is just going to become a part of his way of living, his way of life. When we look at when the internet first came about, and it was like, we are digital immigrants, we're the younger persons, the millenniums. This is just a part of who they are. So as educators, I think it's our responsibility to create a balanced framework for which we embrace and use AI in our classrooms. And making sure we're communicating, we come up with clear guidelines, how we integrate it. It's also talking about using AI to cultivate a growth mindset with our students, right? Because if we're not cultivating that within our students and they become highly reliant on AI, what are we doing as educators? And more importantly, when it comes to assignments, how can we integrate AI in our assignments, but also have the component of critical thinking and personal analysis within the space of using AI as a part of the assignments or assessments that we give as educators.
Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing Prensky and Dweck into the conversation with our digital natives and digital immigrants and growth mindsets. Thank you for bringing them into our conversation. Samantha?
Yeah, so I heard Necheeka speak earlier about going to a workshop with BEDC, and I'm curious about what other formal generative AI learning have you participated in? I know, Denise, you said you had done a lot of reading about it and research, but what formal learning have you participated in?
So I definitely participated in the cafe that the National Educators Institute put on. In addition, I organized professional development by our esteemed Griselda Severin, who is here on, who we are discussing this topic with today. And I actually invited her to my department's professional development one afternoon, and we had a discussion on it as it pertains to the English department. And actually out of that, we are, as a department in our January PD, are going to come up with some sort of statement for students in regards to ChatGPT and what we are going to put on our syllabus as a collective group of, within the English department. So
that have been a little helpful.
Not too many conferences, but I'm a big reader and, just, poking around. Griselda would tell you I forward her documents or she forwards me stuff on WhatsApp and things of that nature. So, when I got a chance to read in some quiet times, that's how I digest the information.
Awesome. Were there any other formal learning opportunities that you've had, Necheeka?
Similar to my colleague Denise, I've read and I've done a lot of reading. I did a workshop yesterday on ChatGPT and how they integrated it into the lesson. It was, and this is in higher education, it was absolutely amazing how she showed how we can utilize ChatGPT when you put in your learning objective and say, this is my learning objective, this is the type of questions I want to use, and how it just created the questions. And guess what? It also will give you the answers. So when we're talking about utilizing it, I think that's also a big component. And another resource that I use to help me to utilize ChatGPT is TikTok. I'm on TikTok, so I will find ChatGPT or Bard or Alpha Wolf. Alpha Wolf is a math and science one. They will tell you how to enter in these various AI platforms, how to ask questions to get what you desire.
How to prompt
it. How to prompt. Thank you for that. Yes. So I guess you could say I'm not tacky, but I like the, Twitter or Form X now also has different links on ChatGPT that you can utilize for educators and for yourself as well. So I kind of dab and flow depending on what's the flavor of my mind today, whether it's Twitter or podcast.
So tell me something, Necheeka. In this session that you're a part of, were they using the free or paid version of ChatGPT?
They showed us how to use it in both spaces. So they started out with the free version, and then they used the paid version to show what were some of the added plugins or perks to the paid version. So they demonstrated how to use both.
Do you find that the paid version would be incredibly more beneficial? So for instance, with Canva that we were talking about before, there's a free version and a paid version. And the paid version is definitely worth it if you're going to be using it frequently. What about ChatGPT? Is the paid version worth it?
I must admit, I haven't gone over to the paid version yet. I've just seen examples of the various differences between the free and the paid version. So I haven't quite put my credit card in yet to get the
Okay.
monthly charge. So and because I'm also, and I have to decide because we have ChatGPT, but we also have Bard. So
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out what would be the best one for me as an individual, considering that Bard has that added feature where it's giving you those live resources because of Google. So it's giving you websites and web pages and other supplemental information to support what they're giving you.
I do believe that ChatGPT, the paid version, though, I believe did receive an update recently and that it can give more current information now. I'm pretty sure I saw that information come out. Don't hang your hat on me saying that. Maybe someone can do some research and let us know about that. But I think that that's their goal as well, because if ChatGPT doesn't, or OpenAI doesn't take this approach, they will be left behind.
Because I think when ChatGPT came out, within 5 days, they had over 1 million users.
They did.
5 days.
They did.
Right? So, and then if I understand from what I'm hearing and understanding is that Bard wasn't ready to come out, but because ChatGPT launched, that's when Bard came out. So now you got this neck and neck race of, in that space of users and availability of resources.
Absolutely. Well, since May, when the NEI hosted the World Cafe Professional Conversation on ChatGPT, a number of the participants sent me links to join social media communities that talk about various AI education resources. My question to both of you is, what social media communities or groups or newsletters might you suggest to a new or experienced educator as a practical AI in education resource? Maybe even, I know that you aren't using it, Denise, but maybe something that was shared with you, you thought, you know what, this seems like a really good resource. And I think you have an answer to that because I'm pretty sure you've sent me something. So ladies, any social media community groups or newsletters you can suggest to educators who are listening in to learn more about AI in education?
Most definitely.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
Most definitely. And that's what an educator can do. They can just go to ChatGPT and ask. That's number one. This is what I'm talking about. How are we utilizing this, right? You have AI in education. As I talked about earlier, you have X, formerly Twitter. You have different threads and spaces in there. You also have the International Society for Technology and Education. So there are such a wealth of resources out there that we can use. I know for us, the Chronicle often produces articles on this, or Magna, they often have short sessions and articles on various aspects.
And these are newsletters and magazines for higher education. Do you find the information, because I know that you have experience in K through 12 as well, do you find that any of the information could be applicable to our K through 12 listeners? Well, no, all of them, because the teachers could use it even if the students aren't using it.
Most definitely, because as we have been discussing this afternoon, ChatGPT it's so broad. So even though the article may talk about examples in higher education, those examples can be replicated at various levels throughout the educational system. So I definitely think that there is some benefits to even looking at that. And when we look at high school teachers, how can they utilize it to prepare the students for the next level? Because that's what it's all about, right? It's about preparing students for that next level or that next step that they get to take. I mean, the resources I just shared just now, they're just general resources. are not actually directed toward higher education, but obviously the Chronicle is, but the other ones are not necessarily. It's just education.
Thank you. Denise, did you have anything that you would like to share?
Definitely, I read things in the Chronicle of Education. Definitely Magna, which is one of the ones I subscribe to. I want to say Course Hero, but don't quote me on that. I was trying to just skim through my email just now and look at some of the ones that I get. But it seems like more and more, if I subscribe to any particular publication, there is some sort of information or data given at, about regarding ChatGPT and things of that nature. So yes, unlike Ms. Trott, I'm not big on the social media, groups and things like that, but I'm more or less send me an email, I'll read it, or, that type of thing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we have a couple of questions left, but before we get to the end, I want us to just take a minute to glimpse into the future. How do you envision education with the continued development of AI technologies like ChatGPT?
Good question. Good, excellent question, because that's what the educational space is all about, right? So when I look at the AI space, and how do we get to utilize that to prepare for the future, it can be overwhelming. And I believe as educators, we need to take bite-sized steps of what your comfort level is. So I think it's going to revolutionize the world. It's not just in the educational space, it's in the world. And I think a larger question for us in higher education is, if we have, as I discussed earlier, this document that has 100 AI tools, what does that look for us in higher education when it comes to enrollment? Because we already have a lot of free courses where you have people like institutions like Google and Microsoft Office that are saying, you know what, you don't need a degree, right? You need to come in with a certain mindset of teamwork, collaboration, being open to embracing change. And what does that look like for us at this level? Because it's going to impact us in some way. So for us in higher education, and also for those K through 12, how do we get to connect, embrace these tools so that we're preparing our young people for the future? I'm a traveler. So when I look at traveling and I look at cruise ships now, they don't have bartenders. You go there and you push the button of what you want, and there comes your drink. When you go to hotels and you now have computer robots that are bellmen, so it's going to impact us. So I think we're going to shift more from educators teaching skills like how to write a paragraph to the softer skills of collaborative learning, being adaptive, teamwork. I think that's how it may impact education and the shift that we are going to have to make one day, or if not now.
Ooh, that was a lot. Did I just hear you say that writing may have some form of extinction coming?
I wouldn't say extinction, but it's going to impact us because of the fact that you can now, I don't know, type something. You may not have all the grammar, but you can tell ChatGPT, please check this for grammar. And it's going to spit out. So when it comes to hiring, when it comes to education, how do we now, if I'm a hiring HR person, how does that come to affect us? Because when ChatGPT first launched, I was on a scholarship committee, and I said to the scholarship committee, how are you assessing scholarship applications, in particular the personal statement and the essay? How are you evaluating that now? With the impact of AI.
Yeah.
Denise?
A lot to think about.
Absolutely. Denise?
I think Ms. Trott said it all, didn't she? She's definitely giving me more food for thought, like, wow, I might not have a job, right? No, I'm
Well,
joking.
I was just about to ask you, Denise, with this conversation, and I guess I'm putting you on the spot a bit, but with this conversation, have you shifted a little in any direction in your consideration?
Oh, absolutely. And I think Ms. Trott, being one of my colleagues that I speak to a lot about change, we have to embrace it, right? So we have some of our colleagues, not specifically at Bermuda College, just disclaimer, but in general in education, who are just, no, this is a book, no, whiteboard, right? But I think as we move, we have to embrace change. So if COVID, and I don't want to bring up the C word, but it taught us a lot about change, right? And in that instance, I was propelled to go and get my online teaching certification, because as we see things trending and things changing, I think we have to be a step up, in front of everything that's going on, to say, okay, well, this is what's going to happen. And for someone like me, I still have about 21 years left, if I say in education. So how does that look? How do I embrace the change? How do I improve my skill set or change how I function in the classroom in order to embrace this? Because essentially, and I'm not saying that my subject is the end all be all when it comes to ChatGPT, but I think it will largely impact writing, among other things, because I don't need to write. I don't need to think about this. I could just, ask ChatGPT a question and it will generate whatever. Oh, well, tell me what I should do when I go to interview, or tell me how to write this college essay. So how do I fit into that? How do I change how I teach for the next 20 years, right? I was in a meeting about, the new school system, and essentially the minister was saying, we are now training people my son's age for jobs that are not even existent. Mm-hmm. And this is key, right? Because by the time my son gets into the workplace in like another, 15 years or so, a lot, like Necheeka said, a lot of these jobs, he might want to go into hospitality and be a mixologist, but is it really necessary? So you have to look at it and sort of prepare for the future, right? As educators, not to be scared of it. Yes, it is scary in a sense, but to say, okay, I've embraced that. I've embraced my vulnerabilities about it. And now what can I do to enhance my teaching and learning in my classroom so that I accept it and that I prepare my students for this, right? So
one of the things that thank you for that response. And one of the things out of the many that you said just now that really stuck out is I'm hearing you recognizing that you must connect some professional learning to you developing your capabilities around technologies in order to be an effective educator of the future. So thank you for making that connection that the NEI is very, very much an advocate of professional learning and making sure that whatever we do is connected to ultimately building up teacher practice, the quality of teaching in order to enhance student outcomes. So thank you very much for taking us there. So we are at our last question of the day. And even though it's a question, you may make a statement about it, because we know, as we just finished talking about, that there are people who embrace technology and people who resist the technology, the skeptics. So what advice do you have for the skeptics who resist embracing technology like ChatGPT as a potentially valuable tool in education?
In layman's terms, you have to roll with the tides, right?
Say that again for us.
In layman's terms, you have to roll with the tides, right? It's an old saying, but it makes a lot of sense, because essentially I think students will gravitate to the teacher or the lecturer who keeps up with technology who can have a conversation to say, oh yeah, you're on TikTok or whatever it is, or you use that, because that is the world. I come from the generation of, I sit on both spectrums. So I've lived through records and 8-tracks and CDs, but then the internet came. So I'm not dating myself, but it's true. I come from that sort of generation that connects it all, right? But someone like my son would never know what a DVD player, or some of our students do. And you have conversation, what's a record? What's that? What are you talking about, right? They download music. So I think if you show interest in the trends in technology and things like that, and you keep up with it, students are more inclined to be attracted to you and your class and things of that nature. Change is inevitable. Do we like it? No. Do we have to embrace it? Absolutely. Because if we don't, we're gonna get left behind, right? And essentially, you might be left out of a job. Let's keep it real. So with everything and how the world rapidly changes, right? 5 days compared to, remember you gave us the analysis of Netflix and Facebook and how long that took to catch on, as opposed to this, we have to keep up with everything. And even if it's a slight conversation, have you heard about this before? And then, we pass on that information to our colleagues, and then it could be just, I send it to my department all the time because, just to, even if they don't read it, I'm giving that information.
You're sharing. Necheeka, any advice from you?
Sure. I saw a quote in Education Week by Susan Barber. If assignments can be easily completed by a computer response, are they worth doing in the first place? Right? And when I read that, it really helped me to pause to say, it comes back to one of our pillars in education when it comes to assessment of learning and what that looks like and learning objectives. And I think for anyone out there that may be skeptic, I would say, first of all, give it a chance, right? Give it a chance. Technology is here to stay. It's here to stay. So either you're going to get on the train or you're going to be left way back at the bus stop or the train stop. I would say start small, because once you go into that rabbit hole, you can be in that rabbit hole and never, ever come out. So take small baby steps according to your level, and realize that is not one size fits all, right? Because there are multiple AI tools out there.
Absolutely.
Don't try to specialize in every single one. Find 1 or 2 or 3 that work for you, depending on the educational space you're in, whether you're a preschool teacher, primary, even an administrator. And then I would also say technology is not a replacement. As much as technology, and we'll talk about AI from a lot of various aspects in education, I don't believe it's going to replace the teacher.
Absolutely,
it's going to be used as an enhancement, as a resource, so that we may be more effective in other areas of education that is not just the paperwork or the mundane, with regards to that. And lastly, I would say we have to be open. We have to remain open. As Denise said, technology is just going to continuously evolve. And we have to be, as educators, lead by examples, because remember, often, especially at primary school, as Denise talked about her son, we are preparing young people, students, for jobs that don't exist today. So when we go back to that comments I made earlier about collaborative learning and things of that nature, I don't think AI can essentially teach you, but that's to be seen. I'm sure somebody's out there developing something, but that's how I look at it in terms of anybody that's skeptical about entering this space. That would be my few bits of tidbits.
Thank you very, very much. Samantha?
Wow. Necheeka Trott and Denise Simons, senior lecturers at Bermuda College. Thank you for the inspiring conversation and sharing your journeys with us. You have given us an insightful and exciting and curious glimpse into the world of ChatGPT and its potential and its challenges in education.
And Samantha, their experiences and insights are invaluable for anyone interested in the impact of generative AI in education. I am so looking forward to the next episodes in our series when we hear from cutting edge public and private school educators.
And to our wonderful audience, if you found today's discussion as engaging as we did, remember, you can catch these interviews in PL Matters, the newsletter of the National Educators Institute. If you aren't on the NEI emailing list, you can find the October issue of PL Matters on the NEI's Facebook page. While you're there, be sure to like and follow the National Educators Institute to stay informed as we share more content and updates.
So until next time, to all education professionals, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep an open mind about the future of education. Thank you for joining us on the Pro Learners Log as we work to build a collective culture of life-wide learning. We'll see you all in December.
Thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you.